Welcome back, everybody. Now, I don't usually do more than one video a week, but one of my subscribers had a question. His name is Steve, and his question made me think quite a bit more around the OEM market, and I'm going to try and answer his question in my best opinion. I'm not going to be spending 20 minutes on this video. It's going to be fairly quick, but let's hear what his question was. Opinion: because of the low center of gravity, the back wheel spins up too easy. Now, his question was relating to the NC700 build that I'm doing. That made me think a bit, because I see two questions here. One being low center of gravity, which is one thing, and then obviously he is talking about the back wheel spinning up. Now, if you have a look, a lot of people say the Honda Jazz is a half a NC700 motor. Now, that may be or maybe not, I don't know. I haven't had a look at it. But when Honda designed the NC700 concept, they called it the new concept. I think they themselves didn't know what are they brewing up. Is it a commuter? Is it an adventure bike? Is it an urban cruiser? Is it a fun bike for everybody? So they actually put a few ideas together and just send it on its way out into the market and let the people decide what they think of it. Now, before we get to this section here of the ideal adventure bike, in my opinion, I'm gonna give you an idea, and I'm gonna use two OEMs as an example, and I'm not going to be biased against one of them. But you need to understand and draw the picture in your mind, and then you'll see what I'm getting at. And maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but that's just my opinion. The NC700, now it's a low revving engine. I think 120 k's an hour, you're doing about 4,000 RPMs, and they give anything between 30 and 35 k's per liter. Very, very frugal on fuel. Now, if you have a low RPM, now let's talk about back wheel spins up. So if you have low RPMs on your engine to start with, and you top out at 6,500, obviously you need a lot of torque on the bottom. So that is where I think his first question comes from. These bikes have a lot of torque low down, and they rev out very quickly. Obviously, also that will help on the fuel efficiency. Now on the XRV 750, the old Audio 7, I think the red line was around 8,000 RPMs. And if you have a look at the KLE 500, that thing only starts to live at about 6,000 RPMs. And then you can rev it up to 12,000. That's a high revving motor. So this NC700 is definitely a low revving motor. It will have a lot of torque. Now let's get to the second point of his question. Low center of gravity. The tank on the NC700, well, where the tank would be, is got 21 liters of space. So immediately that you have to put the fuel tank somewhere else, and it's below your butt. And that really brings it down, low center of gravity. Now, low center of gravity when it comes to an adventure bike for me is key, and I'll tell you why. Let's my opinion, who got it right? Let's start there. Who got it right? And I'm going back in time, late 80s, early 90s. Low center of gravity for me, the bike that was the winner on this was your very first KTM 950s. Tanks were low down, low center of gravity. You don't want a motorcycle that's got a high up tank full of fuel. I mean, even the old Audio 7 had a high center of gravity fuel tank, 23 liters about. So when you start doing adventure riding, off-road riding, it sloshes around and it just pulls you off balance. The old XT600 1984, 85. If you open up one of those tanks, you'll see it's a huge tank, but when you look in, it's got actually sachet compartments where it's compartmentalized off so that the fuel doesn't slosh around the whole tank. So at least Yamaha tried something there, and it worked for them. So in my opinion, KTM 950 and KTM 990 are two of the bikes that have got the lowest center of gravity for me when it comes to fuel. The best marketing people would be your BMWs. GS 1200, 1150, earlier air-cooled, liquid-cooled motors. The frame stayed about the same. Now, KTM's roots started in racing, and I really admire them for that. BMW has awesome motorcycles, but they also have awesome marketing techniques. They will tell you, you can take a GS 1200 out in the bush and bob's your uncle and there you go. Not the case. First of all, small front wheels, where the 950 and the 990 stuck to 21-inch. BMW didn't. And it's a big bike. And I'm not shooting the BMW down. For me, a BMW GS is still up to today the best road bike ever. I'm not doing a lot of off-roading with them because I've struggled with one through a river crossing, and it really was a mission. Traction control gave me issues, but discussion for another time. So I'm not trying to be negative to any, or biased to any brand. If we have a look at the history on the KTM, now they had the 950 and the 990. Low center of gravity, we come back to this question, low center of gravity. Those tanks were really low down, and it worked for them. But then they tried starting to chase the market, and that were your BMWs. So first thing that went, front rim sizes, down from a 21 to I think 19 or so. This came out in the KTM 1050, 1090, 1190, 1290. And I've seen people at a reputable motorcycle dealer, non-KTM dealer, they were having a look at a motorcycle. I was an observer, and the guy wanted to write the check for the motorcycle and said, what's the size of that tire? The guy says, no, it's a 19. He says, no, not interested. So the roots started 21-inch in the front. And that's just how it is for me. Then KTM woke up a bit, and they saw, let's not always chase the money and the market with the BMWs and other brands, Triumph, you name them. But it started getting orientated towards something else. An adventure bike for me was always a 21-inch front wheel. And it became more road biased because, look, nobody really does all these hardcore adventure rides. Some people do, some people don't. But the market tended to trend to something else, more road going. So 1050, 1090, 1190, 1290. They tried to keep up with BMW and the likes, and then saw it's not really working for them. So what they did, they went back to the roots. KTM 790, which was a bit of a disaster, to say the least. They scrapped it, and then the 890. And if you have a look at the 890 and the 790, both of them, low center of gravity, 21-inch wheels. There is some method behind the madness for them. It works. So that is one portion of my discussion. The last section, in my opinion, what is an ideal adventure bike? Number one, it has to be lightweight. A bit more over 200 kilogram, not much, because you're not really going to get it below 200 kilogram, except if you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or rands to get rid of all the weight. So let's talk standard everyday use. Has to be lightweight. Let's make it max. I'd like to be at 220. Minimum of 2 cylinders. It has to have minimum of 2 cylinders. I cannot take a XR650, XL600, DRZ400, DR650, KLR650, although they're bulletproof. There are others as well. But these are single cylinders. And I can cruise with them all day long, 100 to 120 on the open road. I want dual cylinder, definitely. Number 3, it has to be light on fuel. Certainly has to be light on fuel. And I'm not talking about just the age we are in. I don't want to spend too much money on fuel, that's just me. It has to be durable and very easy to maintain. For me, it has to have a 21-inch tire in the front. It has to have long service intervals. And it doesn't have to be picky about, to an extent, what fuel I put in. When I talk about that, I'm not talking about the octane, I'm talking about the quality of the fuel. Now the old carbureted models, they had no problem. You can chuck a lot of things in there, they'll still keep going. But times change. And I'm coming back to this. The ideal adventure bike for me really would be, in this case, an NC700. But the NC700 never came in what I wanted. It had 17-inch front and rear wheels. It's not an adventure bike, and it's a commuter, and it's light on fuel. It has dual cylinder, 270-degree crank. It's durable. Yeah, it's a Honda. Japanese will always keep running. And I decided to build my take on the NC700 adventure bike. And when it's done, it'll have the full bash plate. I think the ideal bike for me would be the NC750. Not that it's really got a lot more power, I think it's more or less the same. But what I'm going to do with this, where I think the NC standard comes with a 1643, yes, I'm keeping in mind average is 4,000 RPMs on the road. If I think my bike has a bit too many legs on the open road, hit 6th gear. I mean, I was used to the XRV 750 for a long time, and only 5 gears. But I can always take this 43 if I feel it doesn't have the oomph where I want it, and make that a 45. I'm not really going to change that too much. 2 teeth is fine for me. I'll bump it up. But yeah, it's trial and error for me. But the NC700 is still, in my opinion, the best all-round package if you can build it yourself. It should be. 211 kilograms, low center of gravity, really low center of gravity. You've got a front, they call it, the tank in the front where you can put all your crap and whatever you want to. I converted it to 21-inch front suspension. I did the 17 rear. Yes, I can do tubeless. It doesn't matter. I just want to get the build done and then decide, am I going to go tubeless or not? And I managed to get it to stay to a 520. I'm using actually an XL600 rear sprocket, which is a 520. So lightweight, 2 cylinders, light on fuel, durable. It's a Honda. Long service intervals. And I think if you look up all the known problems on them and you sort that out beforehand, like on the KTM 950 and 990s, they have known issues, sort it out. KTMs, yeah, some people will say they give a lot of problems, but once you sort out the little issues around the engine, like on the Africa Twin as well with the electrics, then they're bulletproof bikes. Some people have been riding them 100, 200,000 kilometers with no problems on the engine. But this NZ will be a game changer for me, and I hope a lot of people agree with me on this one. But let me finalize it, finish it off, and take it through its paces. Give it to some people that do a lot of adventure riding. Hear what they have to say about it. So back to the question: low center of gravity, back wheel spins up. Back wheel spins up. Low down RPMs, a lot of torque. And the low center of gravity has nothing to do with the torque line on the bike for me, but it's a bonus. When you are somewhere where it falls over, I mean, low center of gravity, good. KTM wouldn't have brought out the 790 and the 890 if they were not going back to their roots, like on the 950 and the 990. That's something to think about. Hope I'm getting a lot of comments. Good ones, bad ones. I read them all. I try and read them all. So yeah, food for thought. Until our next video, part 6. I'm almost done with that NC700. Not too much work anymore. But yeah, next video, most probably end of the week, Friday or so. Until then, take care, safe travels everybody. Bye bye.